Hello. This is why you should play Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Let me be clear here. I am biased. Xenoblade Chronicles is my favorite game of all time, so there's my disclaimer. That said, I'm going to do my best to be as unbiased in this video as possible while I gush to you about this masterpiece of a game. And I do not say masterpiece lightly. There will be no spoilers in this video. The footage you see in the background is mostly from the first hour or so of the game, and nothing very important will be shown, so don't worry if you haven't played the game. The story of Xenoblade Chronicles is unlike that of any other game I have played, and it is the primary reason I think you should play this game. As if to contradict myself, I'll start by saying the game centers around one boy that gets possession of a legendary weapon that only he can handle. But that's where that cliche ends. Shulk's goal is never to save the world from some horrible villain bent on world domination. Rather, it's merely to protect his friends and his home, as well as to punish those that attack them and punish them for taking something dear to him. You'll know what I mean by that if you've played the game before. Shulk is an engineer. He's no ultimate warrior, and he has no special wanderlust forcing him on an adventure. Xenoblade's story is very distinctive in subtle ways. While the overarching story seems surface level at first, it's interesting how the game uses this plot to expand upon its world and characters, before slowly morphing this easy-to-understand plot at the beginning of the game into a complex and constantly, and I mean constantly, evolving, twisted version of what it was, until it becomes a story that you've never seen from another game. By the end of the game, the story merges into a far greater and mystical venture, and you'll find yourself asking questions about the world and these characters and wishing for hours to find the answers, before the game throws a plot twist at you that has been foreshadowed perfectly hours before. Trust me, you will not see where this game is going until around the last hour, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I really love this game's story. I find it hard to predict, beautiful, heartwarming, and far deeper than a traditional JRPG story usually can get. You really feel that Monolith Soft really enjoyed making the game and that they poured their hearts and souls into it. One reason the story is great is it is heavily dependent on and intertwined with nearly every other part of the game, and that's what makes it special. You couldn't have a Xenoblade Chronicles with a different world, or with different characters, or different motivations. Xenoblade is its own thing, and all these aspects working together to make a rich and engaging experience is what makes this game great. I mentioned how the story is intertwined with the world, which means the world needs to be strong for the story to be good, so let's talk about the world of Xenoblade Chronicles.
Long ago, the world was nothing more than an endless sea, cloaked in a boundless sky, reaching as far as could possibly be imagined. Then two great titans came into existence. The Bionis and the Mechonis. The Titans were locked in a timeless battle. Until at last, only their lifeless corpses remained.
Ah, that's a nostalgic scene for anyone who's played Xenoblade Chronicles. The Bionis and the Mechonis together make up the world of Xenoblade Chronicles, along with the endless sea that Shulk mentions. This world immediately establishes themes which reverberate throughout the entire game. Biological versus mechanical is one obvious one, but more so the idea that the world is something strange. Unlike the countries, regions, and planets that we're used to, Xenoblade Chronicles takes place on two humongous titans. The creators realized they didn't want this game to feel familiar or normal, and these characters aren't human, they're Homs, people of the Bionis, not Earth. In a lot of games, level design can be about balance, functionality, obstacles, and barriers, but in a good RPG, I believe level design needs two things: to push and motivate the player to explore, and to be beautiful. Create images in the player's mind using attractive, unique objects that are memorable long after the player has left. This game executes this perfectly. I could draw you a map of Colony 9 from memory. I could imagine the lookout from the knee of the Bionis, and no one can forget the gorgeous design of the Gower Plains very easily. The game is consistently shoving beautiful vistas in your face with interesting level design that really makes you think about how this is a titan you're standing on, and what the places could look like if you were living on one in reality. In terms of exploration, there's always a little corner to go around, or a hill with a view, or a chest that leads to a cool new cave, or something else nearby. The game tells you where you're supposed to go, but always pulls you off to some other direction to see if you can find a chest, a new enemy, or even a hidden area with valuable loot. One bit of praise which I often hear levied towards the original Dark Souls was that if you can see it, you can go there. And that's awesome. I love Dark Souls, and well, it's just as true for the original Xenoblade Chronicles. And fans of exploration and side quests are sure to fall in love with Xenoblade Chronicles. The world of Xenoblade is made to feel alive. As you traverse the various locales, or torsos, of the giant titans, you'll see creatures skittering across the ground, walking around the plains, or flying through the air and landing on perches. The monsters act like they probably would if they were alive, and Monolith Soft really injects life into them by making them seem as if they're not simple enemies in a video game. This is a game where very early on you will encounter enemies that are upwards of level 70 walking around, potentially into you because it can. This giant beast cares not for video game logic. This is its home, and it will protect it even from tiny little Homs with a shiny red toothpick. The people of the world are just as much a part of what makes the world intriguing as the two giant titans that you walk upon. The way that Monolith Soft accomplished this was with what they called an affinity system. As you play the game, you'll gain affinity with your party members, helping them work together in various ways in battle, but outside of battle too. And it's not just your party members. You have an affinity link with every NPC in the game and every town or colony in the game as well. You can raise these for various effects, and it shows in your affinity screen the effects that you've had on these people. You can complete a side quest and bring two relatives who are fighting closer together, for instance, and you'll see that they're close in your affinity screen. What this does is it helps to make the world feel very much more alive. Furthermore, there is one point in the game where you can have an even more resounding impact on the world. I won't spoil where it is, but basically, there was a place that was attacked, and you can help to rebuild this poor place and bring them back to what they once were. It feels great to do tasks and help the village grow, seeing more faces around and buildings pop up. Helping these people who are down on their luck feels good, and it's a part of the game that reacts to what you are doing. This is a completely optional part of the game, and you don't have to interact with it in this way, or hardly any way, but it is a method that I think very much helps the world feel alive and dynamic. Xenoblade Chronicles is a JRPG first and foremost. What this means is that it incorporates a variety of systems like, for instance, leveling up and equipment and party management. A lot of the game systems are to be expected for an RPG, so I won't dwell on this for too long, but I do want to mention a couple of things. Customization. This game is all about the adventures of Shulk and his friends, as well as the world, and what this means is that you cannot create your own customized character. After all, the story is about Shulk. That said, Monolith Soft still did their best to make customization fun, and there are a wide variety of armor sets and weapons which, in addition to changing your stats, also affect the way your character looks. Like any JRPG worth its salt, Xenoblade Chronicles has a variety of ways you can min-max your stats for every encounter, Obviously, there are different armor sets, but in addition to that, there are gems made from crystals you pick up from enemies. These gems can be slotted into your weapons to give them unique effects like more damage at night, increased aggro, silent footsteps, and a bunch more. Of course, you can customize your party, choose party members for the situation, and you actually don't even have to use Shulk in the party if you don't want to. And I would understand that because there are a lot of characters that are likable enough to use. Alright, I admit it, when it comes to music in games, I'm probably a little crazier about it than most people, but I really love video game music, and I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear that I love Xenoblade's music as well. Music has a more profound effect on gameplay than I think most people realize. It accentuates the combat, it enforces the sorrow, and it can create tension where there isn't as much. I'm glad to report that the music of Xenoblade Chronicles more than holds up. Let me shut up for a second and give you a taste of one of my favorite battle themes. Pretty awesome indeed. Just start up the game and listen to the main theme. If you're looking for a piece of music that communicates sorrow, challenge, peace, battle, and triumph all in one, this is the song you want to hear. Seriously, search up the main theme of Xenoblade Chronicles, you'll be doing yourself a favor. Besides the obviously much improved graphical quality of the game, which was easily the game's worst flaw, there is one other reason that even people that have played Xenoblade Chronicles before should play the definitive edition. There is new, never-before-seen content in the game. I'll be playing it now for you, but at the end of the trailer for the definitive edition, they show off a scene where Shulk and a friend is overlooking the Bionis' shoulder. The Bionis shoulder is a location that was found in the original game, but not legitimately. It was cut out and left unfinished, so only people hacking into the game could see this unfinished area. Further, I can't imagine they won't be adding new items like outfits and weapons. Also, in the scene at the Bionis shoulder, Shulk's Monado looks very different, and I wonder if there's a whole new story part that involves this new version of the Monado. If they're adding these things, then I can't imagine that there won't be more to see beyond them as well. Combat is unique. Honestly, it's hard to describe accurately. It's probably best if you watch the combat that I've put on screen for you here. Basically, each character has a palette of abilities that the game calls arts. These arts all have unique effects in battle. For instance, perhaps the most infamous art, Backslash, does 200% damage if you hit the enemy in the back. Double damage. Other arts will have different effects like inflicting status effects or increasing aggro. Each one of these arts has a cooldown, and then in the center of the arts palette, you'll see a talent art, which is unique to each character and central to how they play. For instance, it allows Shulk to access the more powerful abilities of his Monado, which he acquires throughout the game. Whenever your character is not using arts, they will be auto-attacking by swinging their weapon or shooting or stabbing or whatever. The key to combat is to take advantage of these arts' special effects and combo them well together. One unique aspect of combat is that certain arts colored pink on the battle palette inflict a status condition called Break. These arts stagger your opponents, and once they've been inflicted with Break, you can use any art that's colored green to topple the enemy, which knocks it down, leaving it vulnerable to attacks, taking extra damage, and prevents it from using any of its own attacks. Then you can daze the enemy while they're toppled to increase the time they're knocked down and completely prevent it from doing anything. The chain attack is the unique team attack available to the characters of the game. After performing certain things in battle or with the help of certain items and abilities, the blue gauge in the top left will fill up. This is the party gauge. The party gauge is partitioned into 3 separate bars. You can use one bar to revive a party member or to be revived by a party member, but the real fun comes when you have all 3 bars full, because when your party gauge is completely filled, your party can perform a chain attack. After starting a chain attack, time freezes and you can choose any art to use, even ones on cooldown. Then you can choose from your next party member and then from the next party member, allowing you to dish out 3 successive attacks and guarantee a combo, including a free topple or daze. If your party members have high affinity, you can keep the chain attack going and continue attacking the enemy for free. There's a lot about the combat that I really enjoy, and I could make comparisons to other games, like how it's a mix of some MMO combat and like Final Fantasy XII combat, but I don't like either of those combat systems, and I really like Xenoblade, so I feel like it's a bad comparison to make. It's much better if you look at what's on screen and judge for yourself, or play it for yourself if you can. Honestly, I could keep going. I've skipped over a lot and only briefly explained certain concepts, but this is where you can do yourself a favor and plan to play Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I'm a huge fanboy, I admit it, but this game is really special to me and I think it deserves far more players than it has had. Overall, even if you decide this isn't the game for you, I'm really appreciative that you've listened this long, and I thank you. I love everything about this game and I hope a lot of you do decide to try it out. Thank you so much for watching. It really does have a huge effect on me that you watch this long. I hope you wonderful people have a dandy day.